Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. It was a down Wednesday though. Markets were down today. Bitcoin was down and Ethereum was also up today. So that was kind of strange. Yesterday Ethereum was down, Bitcoin was up. So it's kind of a reverse on that happening. Also, miners for the most part were down except for two. We'll take a look at what's going on there. And then we also have a couple stories to talk about here, which include the bill in Texas has passed the Texas Senate. We'll take a look at what it actually means for us. And then we're also going to take a look at DMG. DMG announces March mining results, so we'll take a look at those. Those are going to be pretty quick and easy. And then we also we'll do a Cleanspark, previous all-time high. Can it get there, and what will it take for it to get there? But as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Do your own research. I'm invested in following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out. So let's take a look at the markets here really quick, see what's going on there. As we can see here, the S&P was down 0.41% today to 4,091. Dow Jones was down 0.11% to 33,646. NASDAQ was down 0.89% to 12,848. Bitcoin was actually down today. It was roughly down 1.04% to a close of 29,912. So it did fall below our 30,000. We are still above our resistance, which is now possibly going to be our support line here at 28,600. We'll see if that can maintain it. It is up a little bit right now on the daily. I was a little bit surprised that the markets actually went down today. We had the CPI data come out today. CPI came in at 5%, which was really good. We continue to have inflation coming down here month after month, but yet the markets didn't react as I thought they were going to react. So we're down for the day for the most part. Let's take a look at the miners here really quick. Well, actually Ethereum here. Ethereum, like I said, was up today, was up 1.43% to a close of 1,918. And we'll just get into the miners here. So the miners, Annie was one of the ones that was actually up today, was up 0.85% to 35 cents. Then we had Argo. Argo was down 5.66% to $1.50. Bit Digital was down 9.94% to $1.63. Bitfarms was flat on the day. They were up a little bit, but they ended up flat on the day. And then we got Cypher. Cypher was down 8.17% to $2.36. Cleanspark was the only other one that was up today, 5.16% to $3.26. It was up quite a bit higher than that. It was up almost 8-9% on the day. And this is possibly the continuation of the news that came out yesterday with them buying 45,000 miners of the S19 XPs. We covered that yesterday. You guys can check out that video. But that's obviously having a continuation effect on that one as well, which is good because we're still way undervalued compared to like Marathon, Riot, some of the other ones as well, along with Cypher. So it still has a long way to go before it gets equally to those guys. Core Scientific was down 4.29% to 39 cents. DigiHost was down 4.62% to $1.65. DMG was down 2.14% to 23 cents. Greenidge was down 9.16% to 51 cents. Hive was down 5.29% to $3.58. Hut 8 was down 3.03% to $1.92. Iris Energy was down 6.41% to $3.65. Marathon was down 2.74% to $9.95. And Mawson was flat on the day at $3. Riot was down 0.24% to $12.35. Soluna was down 6.46% to 25 cents. Stronghold was down 8.37% to 78 cents. And TerraWolf was down 5.59% to $1.35. TerraWolf has had a pretty good run up here lately. They're up, I mean, we can take a look at it here really quick. But from the bottom here, right around 53 cents, they peaked right up here at about 200% increase. They are now down to about 150% as it is right now. So they've had a pretty good run here in the last couple of weeks, which is good for them. So that's it for the miners. Like I said, kind of mixed day today, down day for the most part. And let's take a look at the network hash rate really quick. That has come back up a little bit here. On the 7-day, we are down a little bit here to 343 million terahashes. And on the daily, we can see that it's spiked back up here to 366. We're still far off from our high here of 398, but I expect that to continue to go up here over time as things progress. Okay, so that's it for those. Let's take a look at the stories that we do have here. So bill limiting incentives for crypto miners passes Texas Senate, moves to the House. Senate Bill 1751 will next move to the Texas House of Representatives, which is scheduled to meet and discuss legislation on April 13th. If that's the case, that's going to be tomorrow. It's April 12th right now, so we're only a day away from that possibly happening. And let's see what that actually means for us. Excuse me. So Texas lawmakers in the state Senate have approved a bill aimed at largely removing incentives from crypto miners operating under the seemingly friendly regulatory environment. In a 30-to-1 vote, that's actually pretty high. That basically it's almost unanimous. Vote on the floor of the Texas State Senate on April 12th. Lawmakers in the 88th legislative session passed Senate Bill 1751, legislation that would amend sections of the state's utilities and tax code to add restrictions for crypto mining firms. So that's not good there. We still have, obviously, the House that has to take it up, and then it will go on to the governor. We'll see if the governor signs it or if the House passes it. The bill will next move to the Texas House of Representatives, which is scheduled to meet and discuss legislation tomorrow, April 13th, though it's unclear whether lawmakers intend to address SB 1751 at that time. We'll possibly get some more news tomorrow on it. But if it passed the House, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a self-described crypto law proposal supporter, will be able to sign the bill into law. So that might not be a good thing there. SB 1751 has garnered national attention from crypto advocacy groups, including the Chamber of Digital Commerce and the Satoshi Action Fund. The organizations have called on Texas residents to voice their opposition to the bill through their local representatives, but also plan to gather crypto mining supporters at a rally at the Texas State Capitol on April 25th. But if they're going to discuss it tomorrow, April 13th, excuse me, that seems a little late to me. That should have been a little bit earlier on, possibly. But we'll see if that gets passed in the House of Representatives. And then elected officials only know how to use hammers. They don't know how to be surgeons. Fred Thiel, CEO of mining firm Marathon Digital Holdings, told Cointelegraph prior to the Senate vote, they started whacking at crypto and Bitcoin mining has gotten caught up in the whacking. I would agree with that, right? That's two different, well, crypto, Bitcoin, and mining are synonymous with each other, but everything else, all the other coins that are out there, are a little bit off that. So, and we've seen possibly with everything that's happened with FTX, some of the other ones that have also gone bust. This is possibly retaliation possibly on that. We'll see how it goes forward. Down here, Thiel added that should the bill pass in Texas, some mining firms, including Riot Platforms, which has a large facility there and is expanding, that participate in the energy grid load reduction program would likely see reduced revenue. According to the Marathon Digital CEO, all miners operating in the state would be affected by the tax abatement policy, potentially leading to companies reconsidering taxes as a whole, a move that could be interpreted as part of an anti-crypto sentiment at the federal level as well, which wouldn't be good. Also, with companies that do curtailment and get paid for curtailing, they may curtail less, which is going to possibly also have a negative impact on the grid itself at that point, right? Because there's just no benefit doing it. What politicians are attempting to do now is push crypto and Bitcoin offshore, which is only going to mean that countries that the U.S. doesn't want having control of this technology will gain control of it as one of the possible outcomes of this, right? Which isn't good. The U.S. should be leading this going forward. They should be the country that is adopting it and moving it forward, because otherwise it will get into other hands that possibly we don't want. Kind of like what happened with the internet, right? The internet itself, when it came out, there was a lot of debate, a lot of things happening around it. I think this is part of that process here. And ultimately, I still believe, maybe wrongfully so, but I still believe that the U.S. is going to lead in this. But I think right now we're just in this kind of tumultuous environment where, people in high places seem to think they need to do something about it, but they're going at it the wrong way, I think. Okay, so let's get into our next story here. Next story is going to be pretty quick. DMG announces March mining results, and then they talk about the new large ordinal collection inscription with per ordinal rights transfers. Kind of interesting there. We're not going to get into that, but they do talk about it. You guys can cover it or read about it here in the release. So DMG today announced March preliminary mining results. DMG mined 78.9 Bitcoin with 0.88 exahash, so 880 petahash roughly realized hash rate. That's down a little bit, seems like, from the prior month. DMG's Bitcoin balance as of March 31st, 2023 was 443 Bitcoin, so that's up, so that's good. As DMG is now reporting mined Bitcoin from TerraPool on a full pay per share FPPS basis, February mining results would have been 76.7 BTC rather than the 89.2 mined BTC previously reported. On this one, I don't know if I should update my numbers here. Instead of the 89.2, go back to and use the 76.7. We'll see how they report it on their quarterly results, and then we'll make the adjustment if need be for that. Okay. Some bad news here. Miner deliveries. DMG now expects its last batch of 42 petahash of the Bitmain S19 XPs to be delivered in May 2023 rather than April, as previously expected. This has been pushing down month to month here, it seems like. So that's not good. Along with the additional mine improvements, DMG expects to grow its hash rate to 1 exahash in May of 2023. This is subject to the receipt, installation, and operation of the additional miners, as well as operation of its existing fleet in standard power mode. So we'll see if they can get to the 1 exahash here. And they are one of the smaller miners that we do cover here. We'll see how they do going into the year and after the halving event. I don't know if they're going to be able to survive, but we'll see. Okay, and let's take a look at the numbers that I do have for them really quick. So DMG right now has 165 million shares outstanding. Stock price is at 24 cents. Market cap is about 39.7 million. Current hash rate 8.9. I have them, and that's where I have them at right now. Future hash rate of about 1 exahash. They are about 85% installed, 16.9% left to grow. HODL position is 443 Bitcoin. That's valued at about 12.5 million right now. And HODL to market cap is about 31%, and each share has about 8 cents of it right now. So almost a third of that stock price right now. Production-wise, Bitcoin production-wise, they have been coming down here ever since December. December was probably their best month here, it looks like. 104 Bitcoin, and then 100 in January, 89 in February. They said 76, though, and then 78 in March, possibly here. So that's been coming down. Their efficiency has also been coming down here as well. 114 in December, which was really good. In January, 109. 97 now, 88 as well. We're kind of seeing the same kind of trend happening with other miners as well. Bitcoin, our hash rate has been increasing. This results in less Bitcoin being mined by the miners. Okay, now revenue-wise, they did come down here a little bit here based on the numbers that they provided of 78.9. They give them about 1.9 million in revenue based on the monthly Bitcoin average price of March. They were about 2 million, but if we drop this down to the 76 that they reported, well, that would be obviously lower. So then they might have actually mined more here in March. As far as did they sell anything, can't tell. Sometimes they're reported that they do resell or report BTC HODL, sometimes they don't. So I'm basically off by about a couple months here, 5 months or so of reporting. 6 months, they finally reported that they have a HODL position. So we included that in here, but I don't know if they sold anything or not. And as far as the miners are concerned here, I had to take out some of the miners to get into the 8.9. They said 8.8, so we're close enough to that. And we took out these, let's see here, these 125 and 129 of these S19J Pros, 100 terahash miners to get us down to the 0.89, sorry. And as far as the operational days in the month, they were approximately 26.06 days for all the miners. That got us to the 1.981 million that they reported based on Bitcoin average price. Okay. Institution-wise, institutions, we have a little bit of an increase here. So they went from 7 to 8 now, institutions owning them. Shares went up to 1.42 million from 1.3. Percentage owned is also up a little bit here to 0.85 from 0.78. So that's good. We still have 1 strong buy rating, 1 buy rating, 0 holds, 0 underperformed, 0 sells. High analyst estimates is 74 cents. This should be 50 cents. All right, why is that $50? 50 cents. The low is 25 cents on that one. And based on all of that information, I have them at currently for the last 4 quarters or for the last 3 quarters and this current quarter, we're looking at a combined total of 22 million in revenue, 50% net income from gross revenue. We're looking at basically PE of 10. 67 cents is kind of where I see them at there at 24. I still believe that they are undervalued, but their growth is very limited. That's why we're using a PE of 10. That probably could get a PE even lower than that. But we could possibly go even lower. Let's go to 8. That would get us down to 53. And then 80 cents on the higher end, possibly, if that happens. Okay. So the only thing I can say for DMG is they really do need to grow because a lot of the miners are growing. Not all of them, but I would say maybe a third of them are growing pretty nicely here, getting to above 5 exahash. And a lot of these miners that are newer are actually beating some of these older guys that have been around for a lot longer, which is kind of surprising and unfortunate as well. So they really do need to grow going forward if they're going to possibly survive into the halving event, unless Bitcoin really goes up to 100, 150,000 or something like that. That's the only way they're going to be able to survive on this. Okay. So that's it for them. They got to grow. All right. Let's take a look at our next story, which is, let's see here. I don't want that. I want full screen. There we go. So our next story is going to be on Cleanspark. Can Cleanspark actually get to its previous all-time high? When was the all-time high? We'll take a look at it as well. And then what would it take for it to get there? So let's take a look at it here. So I use the data here from November 8th of 2021. They didn't start mining until the beginning of 2021 where they bought out ATL, I think it was, at the end of 2020 and then into 2021. They had like maybe 100 petahash, I think, at that time. Cleanspark did at that period of time. And they grew quite nicely in 2021 and really grew quite a bit here in 2022 and now growing even more in 2023, which is great to see. But if we take a look at it, let me pull this up here really quick while I'm thinking about it. And it is over here. Let me go to Cleanspark really quick. I'll show you guys kind of what I'm dealing with here as far as the price of it was concerned. So some things I wanted to point out here. Okay, here we go. So going back to this screen here, this is the chart of Cleanspark. I'm using the data that came in basically right around here where Bitcoin in 2021 in November basically almost peaked right around the same time that they peaked here. If we go back to the previous all-time high here, which was back in, well, pretty much towards the beginning of January of 2021, they haven't really even started mining yet. I think it was a lot of hopium, well, I guess you could say hopium and things like that, where everything was pumping that was going with Bitcoin, right? So this wasn't an accurate assessment of their potential here. I think this one here, down here around the $22 range, is more in line with where they were actually mining for almost a full year. They got to about 1 point something exahash here. We'll take a look at it here shortly, but that's kind of what I'm dealing with, okay? All right, so let's go back to this. Excuse me. So we're looking at November 8th, 2021 as the reference point here. Market cap at that point was 792,262,000. And let me pull this up over here so you guys can see it. So this, not that one. I didn't want that. I want this. So we're right there. Stock price at that point was $22.26. Shares, they had about 35.591 million shares outstanding, and that's based on taking the market cap, dividing it by the stock price, and that's how we're getting the shares for it at that time. Bitcoin price also at that time was at 67,554, right? Pretty much at its peak at that point. Now, going to where we are right now, so I'm using the data from basically today here. Market cap today is 254 million for them. Stock price is at $3.26. Shares is 77.992 million. And Bitcoin price is about 29,936, somewhere right around there. The differences between those two dates here is they're down 538 million in market cap, which is about 67%. Stock price is down $19 and down 85.3%. Shares, we increased shares by about 90. That's probably wrong here. I got that wrong. That should have been 77 million 35. That was like, what is it, 39. That should have been 39 million. Sorry, that should have been 39,495,000. So that's a mistake there. I'll try and correct this before I upload this to my Patreon members. And then Bitcoin price went down 37,618. That's 55% negative. But yeah, shares went up 119% roughly from 35 million to 77 million here. Okay. So I'll try and correct this before it gets uploaded. Okay. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here as far as the numbers are concerned. And let's go into the next slide. So then we're looking at basically what did they mine at that time? What was their petahash or exahash? And we're also looking at Bitcoin price, revenue at that point, what per share revenue was basically, and then future PE was being valued at, or forward-looking PE was comprised of multiple. So BTC rewards back in 2021 was 216. This was reported for the month prior, which was October. They had 1.2 exahash in operation at that point, which was really good for them since they started out in basically 2021. The beginning of it, they grew quite nicely. And then BTC per exahash or BTC per petahash was 1.8. Bitcoin price was 67,000, which recovered. Revenue came in basically at 14.5 million, 14.6 roughly. And that got us to about, we're using the multiple here. So what we're doing forward-looking wise, we're looking at the revenue, multiplying it times 12, and dividing it by market cap divided by monthly revenue times 12 months. That's kind of what we're doing here. And that's how we're getting the forward PE multiple here of 4.52, right? Which is really low compared to where Marathon was at that time, along with Riot. Riot was a lot higher. We can take a look at the numbers here that I have for those guys here as well. Let me pull those up for you guys as well. And let's see here, screen, there we go. So here is Riot. Riot came in at 46.95, which you can see down here, right there, for the beginning, and then obviously towards last week was at 6.54. So big difference between those two. Marathon was at 19.83 at that time back on November 9th of 2021. And then last week was 4.81. So pretty big difference, right? And then when we look at Cleanspark, you can see how much lower they were even back then compared to some of these other guys here. And they're growing to be about the same size, right around between Riot and Marathon as far as exahash at the end of this year. Okay, so that's the numbers that we're dealing with here. So for PE, we're going to use this one 4.52, along this with this 1.2 as well. Okay, next, oh, let me go back here. So this period, so excuse me. So they reported 588 for the prior month, which was in March, and they are at 6.7 exahash. So pretty big growth here, just in basically a year and a half, roughly, right? November 2021 to now, we're looking at basically a year and a half of growth, huge growth here for them, and along with Bitcoin production as well. Okay, so to reach previous all-time high market cap, where would the stock have to be at here? So there's some assumptions, some things that we're going to add into the stock price, or the stock itself, the shares of stocks. So all-time high market cap was 792,262,000. Future shares added, I'm adding additional 75 million shares because they are going to be diluting some to grow to the 16 exahash, right? They're going to be spending about 200 million or so. 75 times 3 gets us to, 75 million shares times 3 is, what does that come up to be? $225 million in revenue, or dollars generated roughly. I don't know if it's going to be that high. I want a little higher. I'm guessing it might be between 75 and 50 million shares that they're going to dilute here to grow to that 16 exahash. But I went with the higher value here just for in case, just so we can make it a little bit more possibly realistic if that does happen. And then that equals the stock price where they would need to be. So in order to get to 782 million, they would have to have 152 million shares. Stock price would have to be at $5.17 currently for them to be valued at that point, okay? Now, so first one up is going to be the possibility of a forward PE of 1.2, which is where they are right now. Where would Bitcoin have to be? Where would they have to be after the halving event, basically? So we're looking at basically a year out from now, and how much could they possibly be mining, and where their petahash is going to be, or exahash is going to be at that point, and where Bitcoin would have to be at that point to get to that 796 million market cap, and then also their previous all-time high stock price of like $22 something. Okay. The thinking behind this is the 650 BTC after the halving event. Right now, Core Scientific is mining about 1,400 BTC, and they're at 16.1 exahash, something like that. So that 1,400, I'm just taking where possibly Cleanspark is going to be at the end of this year. They're going to be at approximately 16 exahash. That would get us to the roughly 1,400 BTC generated. I'm cutting that down by 100 BTC because of the network hash rate increasing, and then dividing it by 2 after the halving event, so we're down to 650. So if you multiply that times 2, you get 1,300 Bitcoin at that time. But because we have the halving event, we're cutting it in half, and we get to 650 here. Okay, petahash are going to be at 1.6 exahash basically. Bitcoin price would have to be at 85,000 at that point. They would be generating about 55 million in revenue. Market cap for that would be at 796 million with the forward PE of 1.2. Stock price would be at $5.20 with that one. Okay, now Bitcoin goes up, would have to go up a heck of a lot higher for them to go back up to their $22 and some change for the previous all-time high. Bitcoin would have to be at roughly, where was it here, $400,000 in order for them to be at $22.84 with this forward PE of 1.2, which is really low and ridiculous. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I just wanted to use that one as an example here where things would have to be if they just stayed at that same forward PE. Now, if we look at that higher end PE that they had, the 4.52, which I think is also very low compared to what you just saw with Marathon and Riot, they would have to be at, everything else stays the same. Bitcoin price obviously would be a little bit different here though. In order for them to get back up to that 790 some million in market cap, Bitcoin price would only have to be at 22,500 at that point. That would give them 15 million revenue, and the stock price would be around 518, 520 for that. Now Bitcoin goes up to 125,000 at that point, sometime during that year, next year, which it might. We don't know where it's going to go, but we're just saying 125,000. That would get them to the $28, which is actually higher than where they were prior. So I think probably close to 100,000 would get them to the all-time high here as well of $22 and change. Now Bitcoin goes up to 150,000 per Bitcoin. Then we're looking at about stock price of $34.57, right? So this is based on the forward PE of $4 or 4.52, which I think is also very low. So with this slide here, we're kind of going with the mix between Riot and Marathon, where they were as far as their highs, and kind of going by Marathon's numbers a little bit here as far as their higher end part of it, which was the 20 PE, forward PE on that one. So now this also changes a little bit here. If Bitcoin just goes up to 35,000 here and they get a forward PE of 20, their market cap should be about $5.4 billion at that time, stock price around $35.69. If Bitcoin goes up to 100,000 with that forward PE of 20, which isn't a lot, which is kind of like the average here, they would be at about $101.97. And then with Bitcoin going to 150,000, now we're looking at about 23.4 billion in market cap and a stock price of $152. Do I think that's possible? Given that if they actually investors start paying attention to what they are doing with their Bitcoin mining, and looking to see how far they have grown in just the last 2-3 years or so compared to some of the other miners, and how little dilution they really actually had compared to some of the other peers, they should be getting valued equally or close to them as well. So I think this is possibly doable, the FP20, and it all depends on how well they can execute this year, getting to the 16 exahash before the halving event next year, and if they're going to be growing at all next year as well. And that could also help them out tremendously here. But somewhere between, obviously, 4P of 10 and 20, I think, is a fair estimate for them. If Bitcoin goes up to 150, even 200,000, maybe we could get a 4P of even higher than this. But it just all depends on where Bitcoin goes. So do I think they can get back to their $22 all-time high? Yes, I do think so. And I also just think it's going to possibly go above that as well. How far above that? Really don't know. It really does depend on Bitcoin, where Bitcoin goes, and as far as investor sentiment in the stock itself, whether or not they start getting a better multiple than they have been getting here for the last basically year and a half or so. Okay, so that is it. Let me know what you guys think in general of this. Do you guys agree? Do you guys not agree? Do you guys disagree? You just let me know what you guys think. Okay. As always, the spreadsheet is going to be available to my Patreon members. Thank you to everyone there for their continued support. We're getting more and more members there, which is great. We're also getting a lot more members on Twitter, or followers on Twitter, which is great. You can follow me there. I post sometimes there as well, some of the information here, some of the news stories that come out, so I do that as well. And just thank you so much for watching as well. You guys provide a lot of great comments, so I love hearing from you guys there. I try to respond to everybody in a timely manner. Sometimes it may take me 12, 14 hours before I can respond to some of you guys. Do apologize for that, but I work during the day. I do this at night when I have a little bit of time. So hope you guys understand that. And like I said, thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye.